Hey guys, welcome back to another IMSA video. Let's get right into it. So we're back at Watkins Glen this time for the IMSA Hagerty Series, another 45-minute race. Strength of field about 25.79, a little bit more than I'm normally used to. I've been a bit selective with the races I've been jumping into, I must admit, because I'm definitely not quite at the right level yet, but I'm really enjoying the challenge of these races, and it's been good fun. So you can see quite hot on track, 42 degrees, only 26 degree air temperature, but quite warm here in Watkins Glen. We qualified into P6, which was not too bad. I didn't get exactly a perfect lap in, but it was a pretty good lap by my standards. I definitely wasn't too upset with it. We also managed to sort of sit in the middle of the pack, which is something I haven't had in an IMSA race yet. I've been P1 or P2 for both of the ones that I've done at Laguna Seca. So it'll be interesting to see what being in the mid-pack is like. It's definitely changed my thinking on it a little bit. I sort of went into this hoping we don't lose too much I rating, sort of aiming for that -30, -40 kind of mark, and anything above that was kind of a bonus. But just wanting to get into the racing and really improve, I suppose, my racecraft in this one. There were 12 cars that qualified from the LMP2s, but 2 cars did not, so there's 14 cars in total. So it'll be interesting to see how we get on in this one. So let's set this up ready for the race and let's get this underway. So let's move that away and let's add on our track map and we should be ready to get things going. So we're going to start with the end of our, I suppose, warm-up lap here, where, like I said, mid-pack, trying our best to stay out of trouble and trying our best to get a good start, trying to work our way into the race and see how we go. On the new version of the Watkins Glen, which is pretty cool. Slowly getting my eyes used to what it looks like now. And starting to think about this start. Obviously the bus stop's going to be the trickiest part on this first lap while the cars are so close together. And didn't get a great start here, so we're already under a little bit of pressure from Sebastian behind. Or should I say next to us now, and he puts it up the inside, so we leave him some room and get out of the way. And now we've got another car on our inside here. So we managed to hold our line around the outside of the first part of the S's and keep the inside for the second part of the S's and get across in front, which is nice to see. I was a bit nervous coming into this bus stop, obviously not wanting to cause any dramas. Broke a little bit early, as you do, and unfortunately we catch a bit of a hit and decide to take the slowdown rather than risk getting into danger. And then the car that hit us, I'm pretty sure, has a bit of a spin there, so all's well that ends well, but it has dropped us down quite a significant amount of spots. So it is going to be a bit of grind from here, trying to work our way back up the field, but we haven't lost too much time, and we've managed to clear the slowdown, which is obviously one of the main things. I noticed I'm taking... Ooh, so we have a big slide. I noticed I'm taking quite a different line into that turn than most people, holding it a lot tighter. I think it's a much more of a skippy line. Compared to some other drivers who use the downforce to take a bit more of a wider run, which is probably a bit quicker, but it's not what I feel comfortable with at the moment. So first lap done here at the Glen, and hopefully the standings will now sort itself out with those cars apparently ahead of us, although it doesn't seem like it's wanting to, so the standings for this race are a little bit out of whack, but that's okay. Maybe once they cross the line it'll sort itself out a little bit more. So back to the scene of the crime. Really fun section of corners here in this car. Very rewarding when you get it right, and you can make some big gains on people through that section. Still no luck with the standings, but I think we're sitting in about P9 at the moment, so lost a few positions, which is a bit disappointing, but that's okay. We're starting to work our way up onto the back of David here, and just trying to work out exactly how we're going to make the pass. Can we get this slingshot down the straight? As David comes across the cover very aggressively and pushes me a little bit to the side. So pull out of that one. I was a bit reluctant, I suppose, to completely send it up the inside at a bus stop, especially after that aggressive dive back across to the racing line. I was really a bit nervous about how David would go working his way through there, as our standings now sort themselves out, and we sit in P8. So just being patient, something that I'm getting better at. Not worrying about, we are losing a little bit of time to the guys ahead. But, you know, it's a long race, 45 minutes, and it is a bit of a change in mindset. So let's keep pushing hard, putting the pressure on David here, and hope that he can make a mistake and we can make the easy move. Unfortunately, we make a mistake there, running a bit wide into the last turn. And you can see the Red Bull car there spun around. That's not good at all. So again, we get a really nice run with the draft through the S's. This time David comes across quite late. Have to lift out a little bit there. This time David holds the inside, but he doesn't want to give it up, and we end up going too wide through the start of the bus stop, and now I'm starting to think, whew, this is costing me time. And I know it's a long race, but you know, you don't want to get stuck in these battles, and I am feeling like David is holding me up a little bit. But I'm trying to really stay patient and not make any silly errors that are going to cost us, you know, 10, 20, 30 seconds by a spin, or even worse, having a crash and costing ourselves minutes in repairs and minutes in towing. So, you know, I keep sort of saying to myself, 45-minute race, let's take it slow. Show the nose. Again, we're just trying to force him into an error rather than having to make the move on track, because David seems like he's quite content to race really early on this one. I noticed with the draft and the exit that I'm getting into turn, or out of turn 1, that I feel like I'm a bit stronger through this section of the track than David. So the idea is to try and get the move done on the straight if I can line up the timing of the draft right, which I haven't been able to do quite yet. Again, stuck on the outside, and David holding the inside line, so we pull out a little bit early. And this battling that David and I have done has brought Ermden right back onto my tail, so you can see less than 2 tenths behind now and putting pressure on me, which is not what we wanted to do. gap out to the cars ahead. They're just driving away now, 5 seconds ahead, and although, you know, I feel like I'm being quite patient and doing the right thing, putting some pressure on here and there, I am starting to cost us time now. But as you can see, every time that David gets a little bit ahead, I catch him up really easily. So I was starting to think, oh, is it just draft keeping me there, or am I genuinely quicker than David, and do I really need to get a move on and get past? I feel like it's the latter, but you just don't know, do you? Ideally, I probably should have been a little bit further behind coming into turn 1, and that would give me the better run through the S's and onto the straight. I'm a little bit further back this time. Let's see if that makes a difference. This time we go to the inside. We get a much bigger overlap this time. And we get the job done. So now we need to see, is it us that is faster than David, or was it the draft keeping us with him? It's time to try and put some good laps in and see if we can't, I suppose, get a little bit of a gap as we approach our first little bit of GT traffic. So up into 6th now, so back to where we started, which is nice to see. And, you know, 4.5 seconds, 5 seconds to the next LMP2 car. So that's the goal. Try and catch Zach. Here's our target now. We've got a bit of fresh air. You can see we've already put a 1.5 seconds almost on our friend David behind. If we can work our way through the traffic smoothly, we should be able to hopefully start putting a dent into the time ahead and see if we can't catch some cars, as we've had a bit of an accident here coming through the S's. Really awkward spot to catch traffic here. Do the right thing though, be nice and patient. And you can see that was a tough one to get around there. Had a real trouble and, you know, gave up a lot of time, and David's right back on our tail. Just shows just how quickly traffic can change the races here. Or anywhere, I suppose. And how you can get some good fortune with where you catch cars, and you can have some bad fortune with where you catch cars, and how you manage to deal with it and how you string it all together can make such a big difference to your race. You know, sometimes being patient, or even just lifting a corner earlier so that you can get a much nicer timing on your overtake can make such a big difference. And that's something that I'm starting to learn as I go through and do more and more of these races. Sometimes it's not, you know, being right up on the back of the GT car ahead and then diving down the inside that's the best method. Sometimes it's, you know, lifting the corner before to set up the exit, and that way you barely lose any speed through the corner, and you don't get checked up, and you still get that good exit out of the turn. So it's something I'm still learning. I definitely didn't perfect it this race, that's for sure, but I feel like I am getting slightly better at it. You can see lifting there, probably not the right spot, and the GT car there was actually being a lot more polite than I thought. I was kind of lifting so that I could see which side he was going to take, and he kind of left the inside open for me intentionally by the looks of it, so probably could have done that a little bit better, but that's okay. Sort of maintaining that 4.5 seconds, 5 seconds to Zach in front, as we both work our way through the GT traffic. And even though we were losing that time here and there to David, we're still managing to put time on him when we do get fresh air. So I'm glad we got that move done. because it did seem like it was costing us time, and I think it was the right thing to do, was to push really a little bit harder to try and get that move done. Nice timing on the traffic there. It's always nice when you get them on a straight or flat out section. The example there, I suppose, is one, was it the most efficient way to get through by switching back to the inside there? Would have been more efficient to maybe slow down a little bit earlier and try and get a better run out of the corner? I don't know. It's hard to tell sometimes, and it's something I'm still kind of trying to evaluate pass by pass. And I think I am improving, but still definitely, like I said, not perfect. Again, not really making much of a dent into Herbert ahead of us. And he's got Steer for company right ahead of him. So if we can start to make a bit of a dent into that margin, we might be able to catch 2 cars and put ourselves in a battle for 4th place, which would be pretty cool. All about putting in some nice clean laps now. Approaching about a third of the way through the race, and so far so good. See the leader, Sangali's put a big 8 seconds on Bell already. He was the class of the field in this one. Best lap so far was a 1:30.92. As you can see, almost 2 seconds faster than my best lap. So, as I was saying earlier, feeling a little bit outclassed in some of these fields, but really enjoying the challenge of the racing. It's very different to what I'm used to, but it's throwing up some different challenges, which I've really enjoyed so far. I find these parts of the races quite difficult in a concentration sense. You're all on your own. You're trying to push hard to catch the cars in front. You're not quite making a dent into the gap between you, and yet you just can't make any mistakes by pushing way too hard. And it's something I guess I don't always get when I'm racing in the Skippy. One thing with the skip is if a car ahead of you is that, 5-6 tenths faster than you, you can basically stay with them using the draft effect quite easily. And you can have a really good battle with them still. in these cars, although there is a bit of a draft effect, the skill gap is so high that, you know, if you're half a second, 3/4 of a second slower than a car, then you're just gone. And if you're, you know, close to even with someone, it's really hard to make that margin back, which in the Skippy is true as well. Once you lose the draft, for example, it's really hard to get it back, but it certainly is a little bit different. The other thing that I find interesting about racing in the IMSA series is Alex on the podcast always talks about the language between the cars and how, you know, when you're in a battle with someone, you've got this non-verbal cues going on between your car and their car, sort of stating your intentions. And I find that really important in this IMSA Hagerty series. And it was one thing I noticed when I was racing against a Mr. Wallace that some of you may or may not know. If you know, you know. And at Laguna Seca, the time that I raced with him, he was really good at making his intentions known. He was driving the GT3 car, and a couple of times I'd come up ready to make the pass. The first time it was between turns 2 and 3, that little short straight after the Andretti hairpin. You have the two right-handers and the little straight in between the right-handers, and he would just wiggle his car over, not out towards the middle of the track completely, but just off the curb, enough to sort of signal, hey, wait for the next turn, and just make sure that you knew, I don't really want to be passed going into this right-hander, just back off and wait until the straight that comes after it. And it was really interesting that he had the presence of mind, and it was really clear, you could see that he was saying, hey, don't pass here. Whereas other cars would leave that door wide open and almost entice you into it, and then shut the door and kind of be annoyed that you were there. And it was really interesting to see, you know, their language was saying one thing, but their mindset was saying another. Whereas when I was racing against this Mr. Wallace, it was very clear that his language was saying, don't pass here, but that was exactly what he meant. Whereas these other cars at times were, their language of their car was saying, hey, the inside is open, but their mindset was not to pass. So it's really important that, you know, you use your car as a tool to communicate your intentions to other cars. And that's why I suppose some people get frustrated with people flashing their lights. They see it as an aggressive thing, but sometimes it can be just that they're actually telling you their intentions. Sometimes they are just being a bit pretentious, but a lot of times they're flashing their lights to give an intention, hey, I'm about to make a move. So if you think about it as your non-verbal language, it suddenly becomes a little bit different. So still 4.5 seconds back from our friend Herbert up here, but we have moved up to P5. I'm assuming that we've had a pitter or two. And really struggling to put a dent into Zachary much at all. It's basically been hovering around that 4.5, 4.8, 5 second mark for the last sort of 10 minutes of the race. We have another off there by a GT3 car. Hopefully it wasn't via puntage. Approach the back of a very bent wing Audi here. Alright, Herbert, or should I say Zachary, has jumped into the pits. So now I'm starting to think, alright, is it time for me to follow, or will I have a nice break in traffic that I'll be able to make up some time in some fresh air and hope that he comes out in traffic after he pits. It was hard for me to tell mid-race exactly where I was going to come out. It seemed like I had some space ahead to at least do a lap or two. You can see the next GT3 car's 17 seconds up the road. So my thought was try and stay out as long as I could until I had to start passing traffic again. And then make the idea of pitting. I think I went a little bit longer than I probably intended. But that was sort of the plan, was to, while I've got some fresh air, try and put in these consistent laps and not make any mistakes. And hope that Zachary comes out in traffic and that affects his race. See, we've dropped our best lap time now into the 132.1, so almost into those 131s. But still a good second off the best lap of the fastest car, or 2 seconds rather. Not much punishment for running wide here at Watkins Glen anymore. You can run pretty wide there with no off-track, and you can run relatively wide here with no off-track as well. There is one a little bit out there, but definitely nowhere near as punishing it used to be when it used to be gravel out there. One thing to watch out for, as you can see on the right-hand side there, is the pit cones have been brought forward, so it's really easy to get caught out, braking way too late for pit entry as well, so something worth noting. Now we are coming up to some GT cars here, and this is where I kind of thought, maybe I should have pitted the lap before, because I feel like I'm going to catch these guys coming right up to the bus stop, which isn't perfect timing, that's for sure. So probably lost a bit of time there. And you can see the Mercedes getting really wide and had to basically duck in between the two cars there. I was very nervous about that move there. It was certainly not the perfect timing. So now I'm starting to think, oh no, have I just lost all that time that I possibly could have gained on Zach by putting in some good laps? I guess only time will tell once we decide to come into the pits. A little bit more of a safe pass there, which is nice. That one certainly gave me a bit of a fright. I remember mid-race having that car just turn up on the apex. I saw the one on the right-hand side on the outside, but then didn't realise there was going to be a GT car parked on the curb there and the inside, so I had to make a little bit of a exit stage right. So a few lights on now. Obviously, I think this is the last lap before we come in to complete our pit stop. Don't have too much traffic that should get in our way, so it's our last chance to hopefully put in a nice clean lap and see where we come out in regards to Zach, who was about 4.5 seconds, I think, in front of us when he went into pit. So, you know, have we made up that time on Zach, or have we lost ground, and are we going to end up back in 6th spot where we thought we were going to, where we were prior, I suppose. Alright, so on the brakes a bit earlier than normal, pit limiter on.
Activate limiter.
Wasn't the perfect pit entry, but I was really nervous about going in too deep due to the forward or brought forward cones. I couldn't see my pit box, which was a little bit tricky. It's so hard to tell with all these other cars around, so you can see I'm trying to branch out and work out where I am, and I did remember, oh wait, I did qualify relatively high up, so it should be quite a long ways down the pit entry, or the pit lane rather. Alright, so where are we going to come out in regards to Zachary, who was our main competitor at the time? So you can see we come out of the pits and Zachary is there on our left-hand side. And we've made some time, so, you know, maybe if I hadn't have stayed out a couple of extra laps that cost me, maybe it's possible we could have been right with him. But, you know, within a second and a half now, which is a really good thing. So the fight is now on for 5th place, if we can get into that draft and if we can start to make some moves. All it takes is for Zach to catch some bad traffic now, although he has got it out to a couple of seconds. All it takes is for some bad traffic, and all of a sudden we're right back in this for a chance of a top 5. Trick obviously is to be real patient now, especially with the traffic, and just try and chip away at that couple of seconds, 1.5 seconds, a little bit here and there. Find where we're quicker, start thinking about when we do get to him, how are we going to make a move, how are we going to get a pass. We've also got Bram behind us who started P3, so obviously has some good pace, and he's only 3 seconds behind. So if we do get caught up battling, if we catch up to the back of Zach, then, you know, what does that mean? Are we going to bring Bram right back into this race? You can see as well, not that far up the road is both Sebastian Steer and Florian Copen as well. So, you know, we're not that far off the back end of the podium, which is pretty cool. Gap now under a second. Can we start to creep in towards that draft and really start to put some pressure on Zach over the last 10 minutes of this race? Didn't quite get that one right, which was a bit of a shame because Zach did get a little bit held up by traffic there, so did miss a bit of an opportunity to make some extra time. You can see now, really held up by traffic there. But myself, not getting the best run with traffic there either, and the gap straight back out to over a second. This is what I find really fascinating about this kind of racing, you know? Where do you catch traffic? How do you manage it? Where do you take a risk? Where do you try and be patient and conservative? It's really, really interesting, and I really love the way that these little battles can ebb and flow. Whoa, as you see, get right up on the back of Zach now due to a spin through the S's, and we both had to slow right down. So now, unfortunately, that's given up some time to Sebastian and Tobin ahead, Copen rather. But you know, they were probably going to be hard to catch anyway. So now it puts Zach and myself and Bram Van Essen behind me in a battle for 5th, 6th, and 7th place. With less than 10 minutes to go. Definitely lost a little bit of time through the bus stop there, but Zachary makes a mistake of his own, running a little bit a little bit wide rather through the outer loop. Brings us right back up onto the tail. Alright, we're back right on the tail. Time to work out how we're going to get this move done. Didn't quite get the run out of turn 1 there. Obviously a little bit of a compromised exit due to the lap traffic. Which means we're going to run a little bit short of a chance into the bus stop here, but you can see Herbert making his intentions, or Zachary rather, making his intentions really early that he's going to defend this position. So we've now got to be wary about when we try and make the move, because we could very easily get caught out, slacking by Bram behind us, who's just 3/10, if we get it wrong. So there's lots to think about in this one. And you can see, you know, Zach is making mistakes, as am I, but he is, you know, having a little bit of trouble. Yeah, a little mistake there as well. Which is meaning that, you know, if I can keep pressuring him, there is a chance that he's going to muck up. You know, he's running wide here and there, not quite getting the exits he wants. He's on the defensive, so he is feeling the pressure. We sort of had a half look there at the beginning of the S's. Had the lift though, didn't want to spin us both. Pull out of that one there. We did stick the nose in just to see what would happen. Took advantage of the lapped car a little bit, moving over and kind of forcing Zach back onto the racing line. Just tried to unsettle him, just to remind him that, you know, we are here. We are going to try and make a move at some point. All this time, I'm also watching the rear vision mirror because we can see Bram right on the back of us, you know, just waiting for us to make a mistake, to have some contact, and basically get a 2-for-1 deal on positions. So, you know, there's all these things going through your mind. You want to make the move on the car ahead, but you also got to make sure you do it, 1, cleanly enough, and 2, you pick the right moment so that you don't lose spots. So this was a real interesting, one goes around the outside, one goes around the inside, and the outside prevails. Do feel sorry for that poor GT car in the middle there, probably not knowing what to do. So less than 5 minutes to go in this one, and we're really wanting to get this move done as soon as possible now. I'm all over the back of Zach. Again, he takes a defensive line. And again, I don't have the confidence to really send it. And I'm a little bit tentative, and it's costing me time. Every time we pull out of a move like that, it just brings, well, Bram obviously had some traffic problems, but it brings the cars behind away and gives Zach another chance. This time we try and make the move around the outside. A little bit of netcode contact there. And we do get run a little bit wide there. Have to lift out, and the position goes back. Show the nose. Keep that pressure on. But this is a great battle, you know. This is the kind of racing you want to see in iRacing, and this is what makes it so much fun when you have these battles. You know, I'm all over the back of Zach at the moment. He's defending hard. I've now got to take a defensive line because I've got Bram trying to make a move on me. Everything's happening, you know, there's respect being left, room being left. Oh, had to go for it. You know, the pressure of making sure that we stick with the car ahead. It's making me take some risks I probably wouldn't want to normally take, but, you know, that's racing. So Zach gets a little bit of a reprieve now, you know, a 6/7/10 break, but can he hold on to it? Maybe his tyres are starting to wear because he's starting to make some uncharacteristic mistakes that he wasn't making earlier in the race. And every time he does, it brings me right back up onto his tail. Again, defensive. This time trying to run a little bit wider. Pressure with the switchback. Hold him to the inside. And this time it's enough to get the move done. And what fabulous racing. I had a chat with Zach after this one. And, you know, it was such fun to be a part of. And, you know, it was really, really awesome. You know, that's the kind of racing you want to see in iRacing. You know, clean, hard fought, nothing dirty. Definitely got an off track there. And you can see now, Bram's actually got past Zachary as well. And we've managed to put a second gap between us and the cars behind, as hopefully they now battle instead of battling with me. And it looks like we're on track for a top 5. So last few turns now, we know we've got a nice second cushion, so no need to take any risks trying to do fastest laps or anything like that. And just cruise our way to the finish line for what'll be a top 5, but in all honesty, probably one of the most rewarding top 5s that I think I've had. Just the way the race went, as we crossed the line to take 5th there. Just the way the race went and how, you know, hard I had to work to get that last position, to get that 5th spot, and the kind of racing that we had. It was really, really awesome to see. So let's have a quick look at the results. So, as you can see, if we switch that off of the quality results and put that onto the race results, Michelle Sangali took the win from Michael Bell, 16 seconds back. Florian Copen, 18 seconds back. Sebastian Steer, 23 seconds back. And myself, 5th, 30 seconds back. To finish 30 seconds, basically, I guess a second a lap slower than a guy that's 7k I rating effectively, I'm happy with. I know I was car 2 in this split for the LMP2s, you know, car 4 overall, but car 2 out of the LMP2s. I was super happy with how the race went. To finish top 5, to have those awesome battles was really, really good. So, yeah, thanks for watching. Feel free to drop a like or a comment. Let me know if you like the new style or layouts for the video. And hopefully I'll be back with some more racing soon. Take care. Peace.